Sheev Palpatine, Darth Sidious, the Emperor, Supreme Chancellor, Lord, Master. Some even refer to him as the Senate, although this is wrong, as the Star Wars community really needs to create newer jokes rather than latching onto the ones that were created a decade ago. Darth Sidious has been referred to by many names, by many different people. He wore a unique mask for every person he met. The humble senator you met in 35 BBY is a completely different man from the devout, loyal apprentice, hiding in the cover of night in 40 BBY, and physically, an entirely different man from the injured, but proudly patriotic emperor of 19 BBY. Palpatine has gone by many different names, but I would call him a dumbass. To explain, let me go over his life for a second. We don't know much about his early life in canon, only that looking through official documentation, he was a ghost. Under his reign as the Emperor, he had erased everything connected to his past, making him unfindable, as if he just appeared in the streets of Theed one day and instantly blended into the shadows. In the Legends continuity, we are given a bit more of an answer. We don't know his birth name in this continuity, unlike canon, but we do know that he forsook it out of hatred for his parents, being referred to only through the power of his influential family dynasty, Palpatine. Born to an unnamed mother and his father, Casigna Palpatine, he was the eldest among two brothers and two sisters on the planet of Naboo. Palpatine would be known as a rebel who loved to drive fast and occasionally ran over pedestrians. Despite having a clear love for running over pedestrians, he had an even greater love: power. And he believed the only way to achieve it was through one avenue: politics. And politic he did. Showing an incredible intellect at a young age, he used his family's resources to influence the Naboo election, supporting the pro-intergalactic candidate Bon Tapalo over the incumbent pro-isolationist government. This interference gained him the attention of ultra-wealthy Cortosis tycoon magnate Higo Damask II, occasionally known as Darth Plagueis, who would take him on as an apprentice in business, politics, and maybe some ancient Sith rituals, but that's not really important. From there, he managed to fast-track his way to power. Unlimited power. Going from student to ambassador to senator, where we move into the story you all know and love. At the age now of 52, Palpatine would influence a trade conglomerate accurately called the Trade Federation to blockade his home planet of Naboo and starve out its citizens, forcing the Republic to choose action or hesitation. They chose the latter, and that one choice allowed Palpatine to exploit further and become the Supreme Chancellor, ruler of the entire galaxy. However, to Palpatine, this wasn't enough. This power was limited. So he pulled his next play, his piece de resistance. While puppeteering his new apprentice, oh, by the way, he killed Plagueis off-screen, forgot to mention, Darth Tyrannus, known publicly as Count Dooku, he would divide the galaxy into between the wealthy and the exploited impoverished, and rile up both sides to war, plunging the galaxy into the 4 bloodiest years of its history, the Clone Wars. Through this threat of war, Palpatine was able to gain more and more power, until his final masterstroke in 19 BBY, swapping apprentices, killing off the leader of the Separatist military, ending the Jedi, and declaring himself Emperor. Now, the entire point of this video is meant to be about Palpatine's reign as Emperor, but I first want to talk about how none of this should have actually worked. First of all, we gotta talk about the insane plot that is Attack of the Clones, as there is no way that was all choreographed. The film begins with the infamous plot to kill Padme, where for that to work, apparently, all according to plan, is to, number 1, expect Obi-Wan to jump out of a window hundreds of thousands of floors above the ground like he was suicidal to grab onto the assassin droid to be able to track Zam Wesell, and 2, have Zam Wesell be captured alive and outside in the open so that Jango has the opportunity to shoot her with a Kaminoan saber dart, a weapon that is unknown to the most expansive archive in the galaxy, and hoping that Obi-Wan happens to have some obscure third party that happens to be able to recognize the weapon and trace it back to Kamino. Then, after that, it's all fine. Obi-Wan finds Kamino, discovers Jango Fett, hunts him to Geonosis, Obi-Wan reports the formation of the Separatists to the Jedi and gets captured. But then you need to bet that the Jedi's response to Obi-Wan getting captured is to send all of the Jedi, like every single one they can get, and simultaneously assault Geonosis with the hopes that they let Obi-Wan go. Then, hope for whatever reason, Yoda expects the Jedi attack to fail, so he goes to Kamino to recruit the clone army, which, keep in mind, is an army of 200,000 soldiers he had just met with no affiliation over "trust me bro," and sending them to invade Geonosis right after and kickstarting the Clone Wars. Absolutely none of that could have been previously choreographed by Palpatine. He did not foresee shit! How the hell could you have suspected that Yoda would pull a double attack on the Geonosis? Why did Yoda do that? Next, we really need to talk about the clones, because... what? Obviously, the Republic did need a military then and now to combat the Separatists. Taking them on is the obvious choice, but why did they never question or doubt them, ever? One of the first questions they should have asked was who was funding them. The only two answers to this question is that either it was the Republic, and the Republic does not do audits, or know when billions of credits are being deposited from their account, which is a horrifying concept, or that Palpatine was paying for it, which could very easily be traced back to him. Just answering this one question would either unearth Palpatine as a Sith, or unearth a horrifying flaw in the Republic's economic department. We do actually see in the Clone Wars 2008 show that the Jedi do actually get a hugely substantial piece of evidence against the clones, that being that Count Dooku had a large part to play in the creation of them. So what is the Jedi's response to learning that their entire army had been fabricated by the enemy? Nothing! Nothing at all! Ow! How did they just let that pass? I can excuse the Clone Wars starting as being some crazy fluke in Attack of the Clones and that Palpatine probably had a more sane plan for the beginning of the war, but I have no idea how the issue of getting the Republic to trust the clones ever worked out in his favor. The Jedi being as naive as they were was a godsend for his plan, and the only reason why he wasn't executed then and there. Outside of that, sure, Revenge of the Sith happens as planned, he gets out as Emperor, now to talk about his complete failings as that. Except first I do want to preempt that no one is making him do this. He can stop this at any time. This is entirely self-inflicted. Now Palpatine is Emperor. He has all the power to do whatever he wants. Unlimited power. But it still has limits to it. Although he can no longer be voted out or forced out of office, revolutions can form against him, and age will eventually kill him. Being a Sith, he ends up working towards a solution to that last problem through Project Necromancer. Initially with Dr. Hemlock and the Empire, and eventually switching over to the Sith Eternal, but that's not really important right now. What is important is how Palpatine practically fast-tracked his way to revolution. Starting off with the forceful takeover of the entire Separatist state, held by military occupation, and replacing their democratically elected leaders with new military managers. Sure, that may be a good first step towards reunification, but the extended military presence, especially on Ryloth and Onderon, helped to create two of the most well-known and notorious rebel leaders within only months of the Empire's existence. Next, you've got the Wars of Conquest, such as the battles of Mimban and Kulask, where the Empire expended millions of troops into these meaningless battles against planets that did not want to submit to Imperial rule for minimal benefit or gain. After that, you've got all the genocides. The Jedi, Kamino, Geonosis, Dizonfrey, Lasan, Gorman, and this is all before the Death Star even existed. After that, you've got Jedha, Alderaan, Mandalore, mix that in with the species-wide enslavement of the Wookiees and all Imperial prisoners, and you've got a mix of a considerable amount of very unhappy people, and again, a majority of this was done before the Death Star was even nearly completed. The Death Star was meant to be a failsafe to prevent any sort of rebellion from forming and questioning Imperial rule. You'd think you'd want that done not 20 years after you start doing all this shit? The only reason why there was any sort of resistance powerful enough to destroy the Death Star in the first place was because Palpatine's need to cause all this needless suffering, practically begging the people of the galaxy to attempt to overthrow his rule. Speaking of, what was his response to the destruction of the Death Star? How does he recuperate from this loss? He builds a second one. And this time he leaks its location and gives plans on how to destroy it before it's even finished. Which brings me to my most important point. If the Clone Wars was Palpatine's piece de resistance in political intellect and military maneuvering, this is Palpatine's piece de resistance in his greatest failure as both Emperor and a military strategist, cementing himself as one of the worst to ever do it, the Battle of Endor. This is by far the easiest battle the Empire could have ever won. The Rebel Alliance had been fed the exact plans to destroy the second Death Star, which is a bit extreme. Fake plans would have been better, but that doesn't matter. They're sending the entire Rebel fleet and are about to run into the largest gathering of Imperial ships since Hoth, and a
fully armed and operational battle station.
All Palpatine needed to do was surround the fleet with interdictors, send in the fleet, possibly take a couple pot shots with the Death Star's main weapon against their capital ships, and then it's nothing but a waiting game. The entire Rebel fleet falls, the second Death Star is completed, Palpatine lives forever in his glorious empire as the Eternal Emperor. But that doesn't happen. You know why? Because Palpatine chooses to do nothing instead. He asks the entire Imperial fleet to hold back and stand by while he uses the Death Star's main planet-destroying weapon to destroy minor crafts in the fleet, giving the rebels on both the forest moon of Endor and in space plenty of time to enact the plans Palpatine had given to them to destroy the second Death Star and destroy a fraction of the entire Imperial fleet, turning a guaranteed Imperial complete and utter victory, erasing any chances of rebellion off the map, to somehow debilitating the entire Galactic Empire so badly that they fully collapse just a year later. How? How? Genuinely, how the hell do you fuck up that badly? What the hell was he doing when all this was happening that he never changed the strategy to fix it? Oh, he was watching his cyborg samurai wizard friend fight his son to the death in the hopes that his son would kill his father and take his place as Palpatine's new guard dog. And Palpatine fucking died in the process of this. He lost his life watching this fight, and that was somehow more important than making sure the Empire didn't fall right in front of his eyes, because of his god-awful strategy. In the end, the Sith fell due to Palpatine's immense ego, and that was somehow so strong he didn't see any flaws in this horrid plan. Perhaps it was a magical luck streak during the prequels where the Jedi failed to exploit any holes in his fishnet-like plans to stop him that caused him to act like this. Or maybe he just wasn't that smart from the start. Now you would hope that this would be it for him, and the galaxy would never be subject to Palpatine's poor planning ever again. However, in both the Legends and the canon continuities, in two unique stories, Palpatine survives death, and finds himself with all of the resources he needs for a comeback. And somehow he manages to royally fuck it up twice. First, we'll start with the sequel trilogy. Next, we'll cover Dark Empire. First of all, continuing with canon, Palpatine has created a failsafe in case of his death, a temper tantrum order that demands that the remaining leaders of the Empire commit some more genocides, mass ecological destruction, all out of vengeance towards his Empire for letting him die. Which, as we looked at before, his death was entirely his fault to begin with, but you know, who am I to say? The Order, Operation Cinder, deployed ecologically destructive satellites all over the galaxy, causing mass death on Abenido, Chandrila, and Mon Cala, and complete devastation on Burnan Khan, Kandavant, Comenor, Fedovoy End, Gortatica, Necronsis, and Vardos. This senseless destruction and death all over the galaxy is not only tragic, but again very, very stupid, as support for the Empire and the Emperor collapsed in response to this maskless, senseless agony. Had Palpatine been dead for good? Sure. He's a Sith. That kind of thing is his whole portfolio. But keep in mind, he's planning on ruling again just 30 years later. Everyone knows that the best way to the heart of the people is by threatening to kill them all for daring to rebel. After this, he decides to just destroy the Empire altogether, having his protege, Gallius Rax, take command of the Empire and purposefully create an even worse plan than Endor, gathering the entire remaining Imperial fleet at Jakku, inviting the New Republic to fight, then detonating the plant to kill them both. Like his master before him, however, this plan sucked and didn't work. Rax was killed before the detonation of the planet could occur, and even this suicide bomb of a plan ended in a total New Republic victory and marked the final nail in the coffin for the Empire. Those who lived would regroup in the unknown regions, led by Grand Admiral Ray Sloane, initially known as the Imperial Remnant, but would later become known as the First Order. Anyways, forgot to mention, but yeah, Palpatine survived. Just before his death by gravity, he transferred the spirit into a clone body on the ancient Sith world of Exegol. This body was weak, however, and required Palpatine to be on life support. To continue to enact his will, he would use a puppet known as Snoke to control the First Order from afar, and take on a new apprentice, the grandson of his old apprentice, Ben Solo, now dubbed Kylo Ren. Not a Sith, though. Different thing. somehow. Over the years, the First Order would gain a huge military based almost entirely on kidnapped and indoctrinated children, a huge fleet, and the constructing a new superweapon based on an old Imperial project, Starkiller Base, the greatest superweapon since the Death Star, capable of destroying an entire solar system from a completely separate part of the galaxy. With it, they destroy the New Republic in its entirety, and now the galaxy should be entirely free for the taking. How does he fuck it up this time? Well, this time at least it wasn't much his fault. Starkiller Base was built inherently flawed, and Ren betrayed him. But a year later, he would officially announce his return to the galaxy, now with an entire armada of tens of thousands of world-destroying Star Destroyers. At this point, Palpatine is unstoppable. Nothing can get in his way. So seriously this time, how does he fuck it up? The Battle of Exegol. A military disaster to rival that of Endor. Somehow, for whatever reason, every single one of these Zeistan planet-destroying Star Destroyers are all linked to a single control point, and that is the only thing keeping them afloat above Exegol. The Resistance, a group dedicated to taking down the First Order, arrives on Exegol with the hopes of taking down all of the Star Destroyers by simply destroying this one point. The obvious solution to this problem is to deploy the Star Destroyers. Have them put up any sort of a fight. But no. Once again, Palpatine chooses to have them stand by, hoping that the Resistance will just fall along the way. And guess what? This actually works. Palpatine unleashes a Force Storm, one of the most powerful Force abilities in existence, to single-handedly disable the entire Resistance fleet, killing a majority of them. Well, I guess he did it, Palpatine. Good job. You solved the problem. Oh, but there's a brand new fleet, much larger than before. What are Palpatine's orders? Oh, he's dead. What was it this time? Self-inflicted injuries? Again? Trying to get a new guard dog? Again? And he died? The fleet above Exegol was destroyed, and Palpatine managed to turn yet another confirmed victory into an utter defeat for the First Order. Okay, maybe it's just this dimension's problem. What if we go to another dimension and see how alternate dimension Palpatine handles things? Over in the Legends continuity, we have Dark Empire. Same thing as before. Palpatine dies above Endor and transfers his spirit into a clone body. This time no Operation Cinder or Jakku though. This time he's got plenty of clone bodies, so he's got a lot of chances. All situated on the planet Biss, the capital of the new Empire. The Dark Empire. It's like the Empire, but darker. Palpatine would wait way less than his canon counterpart, only 6 years to unveil himself to the galaxy. This time he starts out with the Zeistans. This time in the form of world destroyers, gigantic superweapons that eat planets alive and send them all across the galaxy. He would then invite Luke Skywalker to his home on Biss and just ask him to be evil. Wait, what? Wait, he invited Luke Skywalker to his home and politely asked him to be evil. And Luke accepts? So Palpatine promotes him to the highest possible position in the military? Palpatine just trusts Luke with everything? Immediately? After one conversation? This being the same man who told him outright that he would never join him just 6 years prior? This may objectively just be Palpatine's single dumbest decision he's ever made. Luke obviously is a spy, working against the Dark Empire, who supplies the New Republic with the plans to defeat the World Devastators and fuck up Palpatine's plans. Palpatine just doesn't figure this out and performs his next great plan, attempting to bring Leia to the dark side too, just like he did Luke. And surprisingly, unlike her father and brother, she says no. After that, Luke, who is very obviously a spy, announces openly to Palpatine that he's gonna start destroying all of his clones. So Palpatine kills himself in the hopes of getting a younger body, which is actually a pretty great plan. He succeeds and manages to beat Luke in the fight, but then he just accepts Luke back. Again, Luke just stated that he plans on killing Palpatine and all of his clones and just tried to kill him himself, but Palpatine just waves the idea away. This will only go in Palpatine's favor, I'm sure. After this, again, Palpatine asks Leia to join his side, and again she says no. Oh yeah, I forgot to mention, but the entire reason he wants Leia on his side is so he can use her unborn child's body as his next body to inhabit. It's weird. Anyway, she says no, then Luke, unsurprisingly, betrays him, and Luke and Leia together redirect using the Force a wormhole that Palpatine created to eat Palpatine alive. Keep in mind, they were in the same room as Palpatine and used a country-sized wormhole to kill him. I'm not sure how that's supposed to work, but that's how it happens. Anyway, that's okay, because Palpatine has plenty of clone bodies left. He just goes into a new body. Watching over the clone bodies are two of his closest friends, Nefta and Sadi. We meet them for the first time, destroying all of Palpatine's clone bodies. The people Palpatine left in charge to protect his bodies immediately start destroying his bodies the first time we meet him. Did he do no background checks on these guys? Are they actually his friends? Does he have friends? What did he do to these guys to deserve this? Anyway, both of these guys are swiftly killed by Cedrus, an apprentice of Palpatine who is a dark Jedi, which is pretty much just a Sith, but no one but George Lucas knew what a Sith meant when this was written, so he's just lesser as a byproduct. Palpatine sends Cedrus out to capture Luke and Leia alive because holy shit, Palpatine is so lonely and refuses to accept that Luke is not his friend, and Cedrus is defeated within minutes of finding him by being eaten alive by a several millennia old Jedi tree who had been unconscious that entire time but woke up just to kill this guy. I'm not making this up. This is just how it happened. Palpatine gets told that Cedrus is dead and he doesn't give a shit because he's got a new world destroyer, his fifth world destroyer. I forgot to mention that the ship he was on when he died last was also a world destroyer, the Galaxy Gun. A giant gun that fires bullets across the galaxy that blow up planets. I genuinely feel like I'm losing my mind. Palpatine starts firing off the Galaxy Gun a whole lot, but he is getting old quick, like visibly aging by the second. So he goes to Leia a third time to try and possess her now born child, Anakin Solo, by riding around in his sixth world destroyer, an exact copy of the ship he just died in, and lands on Onderon, where he is shot and killed by Han Solo. His spirit escapes, however, and tries to possess the newborn baby, but accidentally possesses a Jedi who is in the shape of a ball, who kills himself to kill Palpatine with him. And while this was all happening, the world-destroying ship crashed into his world-destroying gun, completely destroying both, which was such a major loss for the Dark Empire, it collapsed instantly in response. I'm not even gonna try and summarize this. I'm not even gonna bring up any points. I've got nothing to note. You have heard it all. You have seen it all. Darth Sidious is a stupid, stupid man who had only gotten anywhere doing anything he did through luck. The greatest luck in the galaxy, where he very, very well should have stopped at every single hurdle he came across. Nothing should have gone his way. He's like the Mr. Magoo of Star Wars. He should be dead. Over and over and over and over and over again, he should have died. He should have faced justice. He should have gotten found out, but he didn't. Over and over, he just fucks everything up constantly by showing himself to be the dumbest man in the galaxy. He's a dull, dumb, naive, senseless, idiotic, mindless, dense, dim, doltish, dopey, gullible, witless, moronic fool. It's a miracle he survived childhood. How did they let this man in office? Much less emperor. They gave that to him. They gave it willingly. The man who in the Legends continuity built an army of world devastators and 5 other world destroyers, and he lost them all of them, within days of being finished. All of them! Palpatine is the final product in the 1,000-year-long planning by the Sith, the final piece in a several thousand-long lineage of Sith, who had given everything he could ever need to complete their vengeance and create a new, indefinite Sith Empire, and he lost it all in 20 years! And he got a second chance! And he lost it and won! How? How? How?